afternoon to you. It's 4 o'clock and time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Hope you had a great weekend. Some news out of Berea. Not a surprise, but news nonetheless. The Browns have made it official. Joe Flacco is named the starting quarterback for the Browns. They announced it this afternoon. Flacco sat down with Aditi Kikabwala from CBS Sports, talking about the opportunity that exists with the Browns.
I still feel like I do have a lot to bring, and I'm still doing this because I want to do that. I want to bring a lot to a football team. I want to win football games. I want to do all those things. And I don't necessarily care about proving it, but there's a little bit of that in there, sure. I want to prove it, that I can still do it. And it's very important to me. And like I said, I don't want to be a backup. I haven't wanted to do that for the last 4 or 5 years or however long it's been. I want to play football. That's what I want to do. Being the backup is something that I've had to do to get to this point where I actually have a chance to play. If I wasn't willing to be the backup and then sign with Cleveland, I never would have experienced that. So I am thankful for some of those teams giving me the opportunity along the way to just be the backup, because it kept me going, to give me opportunities to really play football. I don't want to sit on the bench. I don't want to sit back there and watch other people play and stress about getting in there in a couple plays or not. I want to go play. So I think my mindset when I take the field is not necessarily go prove yourself. It's just do what you do. I still have a lot to prove, I feel like. I want to play football. I feel like I can. I'm excited for the opportunity to do it.
And again, Joe Flacco named the starting quarterback for Week 1 by the Browns earlier today. Kevin Stefanski, I'm sure, will be asked about it and talk about it tomorrow after today's Players' Day off. Dillon Gabriel got the start, played pretty well, a couple of turnovers, but a lot has been made about the interception that Gabriel threw, second turnover as well. Former NFL quarterback Dan Orlovsky analyzes exactly what happened on Gabriel's interception, with two receivers and a defender kind of bunched together.
When you're going through this keeper stuff, a couple things. Number one, let's talk about what we call this slide route, okay? The way I've been around it with the slide route is, this is decision-making time for that player. Not easy, but it's decision-making time. You would prefer this player to flush the flat right now. Get out to the flat right now. Defender does a good job. So now it's decision-making time. Spacing matters, okay? Are you going over the top? Or are you going to go underneath? Now, if you go underneath, you kind of got to get back to your landmark, though, dude, because there's layers to the depth of the routes. So he gets contacted and then kind of drifts, okay? Drifts, and then it looks like he's going to get past that defender and run, and then he gets past that defender and stops, okay? Not blaming anything here. This is all learning. But as the quarterback, you're in no man's land right now. Okay, what do I do? What do I do? You're expecting this guy to be there. All right? And now let's go to the down flat. That's this tight end right here. How many counts is it? 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. Okay, so 2, 3 Mississippi. I don't have a huge problem with his spacing. His spacing feels restricted. Look at this as the quarterback. You got 3 guys within 6 yards of each other, 5, 6 yards of each other. This spacing stinks.
Yeah, again, the bottom line is, though, as a quarterback, he should have seen that and not thrown it. So I get that. But Kevin Stefanski alluded to the receivers playing in the same sandbox and said they have to correct that. Should never happen. Dillon Gabriel, when his playing time was done, was asked about his performance and how he felt he played on the sideline while the game was still going on.
It's just part of it. There's entertainers and there's competitors. And I totally understand that. And my job is to compete. And that's what I'm focused on doing. Of course, we're doing this mid-game, but, it's something that I'll get used to, and just want to be the best team that I can and create an environment where we can all go do our best work. That's all we want to do.
As is the case sometimes on social media, a lot was made about that comment. Some felt that it might have been a dig at Shedeur Sanders. A little bit later, during post-game, Gabriel was asked about that.
All you in this room are entertainers, and you have a job to do, and I respect it, right? And I'm a competitor, so I have a job to do as well. And I think, just understanding that, that's how I've lived by, and I've said that multiple times. So definitely not a new quote, but something that I've definitely said before.
So you were referring to media as the entertainment?
Yeah, I just said that, yeah.
Yeah, and just to clarify, I think, how social media is, I think some people are trying to take that as something that you probably did not mean it as. Some people are trying to make it out to be sort of a shot at you. Can you just...
Yeah, first off, I'm all about our team, you know what I mean, and each other. I would never make that, and I've said it before, that's why it's interesting. But for me, I've explained it. Entertainers are you all, competitor. That's what I am, and all my teammates, and we both have jobs to do. So that's it.
And again, Gabriel has been pretty consistent about not wanting to compare himself or bring Shedeur Sanders into the conversation. So I tend to believe him. But again, a lot made of it. At the end of the day, both of them played pretty well, so that's good. We'll have plenty more on the Browns. Pete Smith from the Orange and Brown Report, as well as Lance Reisland, will be along to talk about what the Browns do moving forward, as well as what we've seen from them. Let's turn our attention to the Guardians. They were trying to avoid the sweep to the Atlanta Braves. Logan Allen on the mound for the Guardians. Third inning, Guardians were down 2-0, and Bo Naylor batting fifth. Gets one down the line. It goes as an RBI double, 2-1. Fourth inning, Daniel Schneemann, and this one is going to be trouble. Gets by the outfielder, goes as a 2-run triple. Guardians with a 4-1 lead. It didn't last long. Fifth inning, and Nick Allen will score on a throwing error right there as Allen hustling all the way, and will be able to score to make it 4-2. Still in the fifth inning, and it's Ozzie Albies at the plate, and Albies goes the other way. An RBI single to make it 4-3. Sixth inning, Jerkson Profar, a 2-run home run to right. 5-4 the final. The Braves complete the sweep of the Guardians. 5-4 the final score as Nick Enright gave up a 2-run homer. Guardians had scored 1 run in the first 2 games, dropped the third game 5-4. So they're now 3.5 behind the Yankees for that final AL wildcard spot. Open up a 3-game series against the Diamondbacks tonight in Arizona. Gavin Williams on the mound going against Zach Gallen. Lance Reisland is up first. We are talking Browns on Sports for CLE. Want to remind you, high school football starts Friday night. And join Friday Night Huddle on Rock Entertainment Sports Network for all the highlights and scores from across Ohio. Join legendary head coach Chuck Kyle and I Friday Night Huddle from 9:30 to 10:30 Friday nights on Rock Entertainment Sports Network. We'll take your phone calls and have all the scores and highlights from across Ohio. Again, Friday Night Huddle, 9:30 Rock Entertainment Sports Network. Head to watch rockentertainmentsports.com. Watch rockentertainmentsports.com for channel information as well as program information.
You got so much to do, it's got you feeling blue. Put a little play in your day, 'cause it's fun all over the state. So come on, great games wait for you and me, the Ohio Lottery. Put a little play in your day. Put a little play in your day.
Lance Reisland is up first as we begin by talking Browns here on Sports for CLE. Told you last segment that Joe Flacco named the starter for Week 1 against the Bengals earlier today. Let's welcome in Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Lance, we'll talk a little bit about Flacco in that first, but let's dive right into kind of takeaways, film breakdown video analysis from Eagles Week. Going to start with the D-line. So take us through what you see here and what you've seen from them.
Well, as these clips get going, you're going to see, first of all, great extension, right? Hands, extension, moving the offensive lineman backwards. So every day you've seen this carryover to practice. Then you're going to see how they work this jab step with the swipe, and that was really good by Mason Graham. Now you're going to see it kind of carry over to the game where you're going to see a great sacks by Okunwara, who simply works a simple speed rush with a hand over move. And the point of these clips, as you look at these clips, is the carryover, day-to-day carryover. This is Malik Collins working. So every single day, it basically starts with the same thing with the defensive line. They're going to recreate the line of scrimmage backwards, 2 to 3 yards. They're going to get their hands to their gap. So they're going to get their hands on the offensive lineman and get into their gap. And then they're going to win on first down, and then that allows them to rush the passer like they've done. And what I've been so impressed with is I wanted to see it against the Eagles, really good offensive line, and they were absolutely dominant for 2 days in everything they did because of the disruption and the depth. And Mason Graham, this is his patented move, that double club after the jab step. A bunch of really good athletes. And what you saw from the Browns against the Eagles is the same thing you saw from the starters on both Wednesday and Thursday. Controlled the line of scrimmage. The Eagles had trouble running the ball. The only thing that they had success with was Jalen Hurts on some designed runs and some draws. But the Browns' defensive front seven is absolutely legit and a possible top 5 unit in the NFL with that depth.
Yeah, and you know, the thing about having a front seven that dominates, Lance, is you're going to have all kinds of trouble getting into anything offensively. Just think about what the Browns' offense was like last year, and that's what a penetration and pressure on a quarterback will do to an offense.
Well, the thing I really liked about the defense, like you said, is that it creates havoc for the offense. But if the Browns can win on first down, now they go from a really good defensive line to one of the best, if not the best in the NFL. And what I mean by that is that if they can get to second and third and long, which they did against the Eagles a bunch, they got a chance to turn those pass rushers loose. And they're 2-3 deep at every position, and especially with the pass rush crew. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka and Okwara. These are guys that are down the depth chart that are dominant pass rushers and kind of can fit that role. And then you guys got like Jawan Briggs and, the guys inside who can kind of hang in there against the run. And Shelby Harris can, come in for Mason and Malik Collins and give them a great break. So just so much depth and versatility. And again, if they can win on first down and you create pass rushing situations, I will say this. There was as I told you guys last week, there's a couple times on Thursday, there were 6 to 8, 10 plays in a row where Miles would have had a sack. And I'm not talking like 1 or 2 sacks. He would have had 6 to 8 straight sacks because they just couldn't block him. So really excited about this defensive line. That's my number one thing of camp and with the Eagles. And doing against that really good Eagles front showed me how good they can be.
All right, so the question becomes quarterback play. And this is minus Joe Flacco. This is basically the 2 rookies. So take us through what you've seen from the quarterback play.
Well, both did a really good job in their start. So you're going to see a simple read here on the guy in the circle, simple curl flat, really easy read for a quarterback, really, really nice. Now, next play, you're going to see motion. And what motion does, actually, you're going to get a different look here, is you're going to see that guy drop, and you're going to see the big window there. So that's a design by Kevin Stefanski. Now, you're going to see this guy run in motion. They're going to show 2 safeties here. Dillon Gabriel does a good job. That guy runs in motion, so it tells you your man. Now it goes to stack. Now, that stack creates good distance between the receiver, Jamari Thrash, and the defensive back. And then, obviously, a really good throw from Dillon Gabriel. Now, from the quarterback perspective, I think both guys played really, really well in their starts. Don't want to go too much into it. It is the preseason. But I will say this, the narrative that one guy hasn't gotten any reps or one guy is being favored, I don't believe that. I think both guys have been set up for success. The reason these guys played so well is because of Kevin Stefanski and his staff getting them ready to play. No one's being held back. No one's being shunned. No one's being, set up for failure. What they're doing is getting these guys, the reason they were so successful, if you listen to Shador, if you listen to Dillon Gabriel, they were very confident in what they're doing with their footwork, with their pass protections, with everything you're doing because of the coaching staff. So again, solid play. It was a good opening for performance from Gabriel, just like it was from Sanders. One's success doesn't, do anything to the other guy. I thought both guys competed really, really well, and we'll see how it goes moving forward when it gets harder and harder.
Yeah, and again, vanilla defense. It's preseason, so don't read too much into it. But the things that, and tell me if you saw this. I saw Dillon Gabriel throw with a muddied pocket around some bigger bodies and finding passing lanes. I have a huge question about that because of his size. It was not a problem. And the other thing is, he's got a much stronger arm than people give him credit for. There were a couple of 12, 15-yard throws that were like, all right, that'll play.
Well, what he did, I thought he really did well too. Is this early on, though? That first drive, he had 3 third down conversions, and you saw that footwork in the pocket. And as you watch Dillon Gabriel, watch how he slides in the pocket. He's doing that because of his height and because of pressure. You're right. The pockets were muddied, which is always good to see a young quarterback deliver the football when the pocket is muddy. He also did a great job of finding those throwing lanes, right? And they're going to have to change the launch point. But what he did really, really well is if you can get through your process quickly, that takes away a little bit of that hype because that defensive line isn't in your face as much. But I thought he did a great job. He ate the ball. Now, on that interception, I tell everybody, and we're going to go over this at some point, it was a really bad route by both Jamari Thrash and Diontae Johnson. However, it was compounded, as my dad would just say, don't compound an error with an error. And that's what Dillon Gabriel did, and hopefully he learns from that. Just like Shedeur has some things to learn from his start. Again, they both did a really nice job. Got to protect the football. If you think about 198 or 194 to 34, it was a dominant first half, but if you don't protect the football, the other team is always going to be in the game. So he'll learn, and they got to protect the football. And that's part of it. Even though he played well, he's got to protect the football.
Yeah, we showed a little bit of a film breakdown by Dan Orlovsky where he kind of pointed out how the receivers did that. But the problem is when you see that as a quarterback, and it's a rookie mistake, throw it away. There is nothing in that play that is saved. You can't save it at that point. Don't try to. Live to play the next down.
Yeah, you absolutely said it right. So right when he came off and you saw Thrash get bumped, so it's a layered concept, and we used to call it a triangle read, right? So as a quarterback, that's one of Kevin Stefanski's staples, and when you don't have spacing, it looks just like that. So Thrash should be at 3 yards, Diontae Johnson should be at 12 to 15 yards, and then the top guy is taken off the top. Well, it ended up Thrash being at about 8, Diontae Johnson being about 10. You saw them together, and then they didn't know who it was for. But the bad routes does not, Dillon Gabriel's got to see that and go, hey, you know what? Once the routes are gone, just throw it away. And then you live to fight another day. And once again, punting the ball is not a bad thing with this defense. That's how good I think this defense can be. You can punt it. You can get the ball back. Hopefully they get good field position. Hopefully that's something he learns from.
All right, last point of the takeaways from Eagles week, commitment to the run games. Take us through that.
So I thought the second offensive line, both lines, you can see here, everybody on the right side is going to reach. This is just wide zone everybody talks about. Then you're going to see the center and the left guard. So you're going to see Whitner get up to the second line, and you're going to see Jenkins turn his guy. So as this play goes over again, you'll see the whole right side reach with the right foot. That tells you it's outside zone. Then you're going to see the center reach to Zinter 70 and then get to the linebacker. And as you see him get to the linebacker, you're going to watch the left guard Jenkins, number 74. He's going to get his butt all the way around, swing his hips around, and create this lane. So Whitner gets to the second level, Jenkins creates that lane, and then you get that good cutback lane. And as the play starts one more time, look at wide zone, how everybody on the Eagles defense will run to their left because they don't want to get beat outside, which creates that great cutback lane. And that's what wide zone does. This was a 6-man front down on the red zone, down in the go zone, I used to call it, inside the 5. And this is just a hat on a hat. Everybody get to their guy, and the thing that you saw with Callahan is that when the play stops, as he makes his cut, you'll see everybody on that offensive front has their orange helmet on a green helmet. And we used to call that getting a hat on a hat. And if you do that, you always have a chance. The back always has a chance. Very impressed with this wide zone. What I was more impressed with was after big pass plays, they ran the ball. Because Kevin sometimes can get pass happy like the rest of us offense coordinators, and his commitment to the run, successful or not, creates that identity that they're looking for. So, again, great touchdown run here. Really nice job by that offensive line and Coach Bloomgren's crew. Very physical all day.
I thought Marshall has flashed a little bit. The running back from Appalachian State had a couple of runs. That's the guy that scores that touchdown. He also had the nice blitz pickup on Shedeur Sanders' touchdown pass. So he's kind of shown, he can be a guy that's trusted. He's played on special teams some too.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's going to be a battle here coming down this last week with him and Pierre Strong because he gives you that heavy body, especially down in the red zone. So I always think about a guy like that. First of all, he can play special teams. He's proven that he can pass protect. He did a great job, like you said, on that Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur did a great job of sliding to his right and hit that second dig to Caden Davis. But he's been running the way you saw him running these games. That's how he runs every practice. So it's really great carryover. This is nothing new that I've watched. He's been outstanding all camp. And Pierre Strong's had some issues with some injuries and things like that. But this Marshall guy, if you think about red zone runs, third down, blitz pickup, things they want to do, he fits the bill. He's a big, big kid who can really get the Browns to 2nd and 6. And we know if you get to 2nd 5, 2nd 6, I've talked about, you got a chance to be successful in this Browns offense.
Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, and I'm going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, some perspective of where the Browns kind of sit from a national perspective. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
CBS sideline reporter Aditi Kikabala with what she has seen from the Browns coming away from that joint practice and preseason game with the Eagles.
Getting to watch joint practice with the Eagles on Thursday really made me understand why Grant Delpit said that practice should give a lot of guys confidence. This Browns team isn't as far off as a lot of the national media is making it to be. And this Browns defense, if it can find itself a slot corner and can stay healthy, is legitimate for sure. This Browns line, this offensive line, I would feel good about. Sure, DeJuan Jones has some growing and developing to do, but you've got 4 veteran savvy guys who can still play at a high level and who've played together for a long time. This run game finally is back, looks good. Dylan Sampson is better than expected, in my mind at least. I think there are things to be excited about.
So, Lance, we've talked about it. Schedule's tough. So, but I just don't see this as a 3, 4, or 5 win team. A lot would have to go wrong, and it could, especially at the quarterback position. But I think it's closer to an 8, 9 win team than a 3 or 4 win team.
Well, I think she was spot on with some of her assessments of practice, and that's something I've watched every single day. I was so lucky this summer to see they didn't go to Greenbrier, so I got to see every single rep of every single practice. And absolutely right. Now, I'm the slot corner, I think they're going to be okay. I think the free safety is more the spot. I think, when you get Delpit down in the box, he'll be fine. I think Hickman can play down there. It's Jenkins, it's Kazee. Who's going to play that free and make those tackles? But besides that, obviously, I think Newsome's a guy who's going to need some help over the top if you face a team with multiple good receivers. But I couldn't agree more. You have high level guys on that defense at all 3 levels, right? So you got a really good young linebacker, you got a great corner, and you got multiple guys up front who are really good with Myles Garrett, who I have said this a couple of times now. He is playing better than he's ever has, at least in my 4 years of being down there at every practice. He's been just dominant. So, and then offensively, you're going back to the run game. You see the play design from Kevin Stefanski. This quarterback play is more, for me, the success of Shedeur Sanders and the success of Dillon Gabriel has a lot to do with Kevin Stefanski and his staff getting them ready to play. You see the power run game. I saw that, whether you get right, it's body shots. So there's a lot to be excited about. Bjorkes can punt the heck out of the football, which makes that defense really happy. Hopkins has got to make sure he's really consistent. That's a little worrisome because he's a little bit shaky right now. But I'll tell you what, this football team is not far off at all. And when you play good defense, you can stop the run and you can run. You can win a lot of football games. I don't care what level it is.
So Kevin Stefanski, after the game, was asked his thoughts about how Dillon Gabriel did in his first preseason action, first action with the Browns. Also kind of compared to how Shedeur Sanders performed in his preseason game.
Obviously, I'm not going to compare our players, Mary Kay, other than to say I'm pleased with both those guys, where they are in their progression. They have the mentality that they're going to get better every single day, which I appreciate. That's really where our focus is. Plenty to clean up. There's some things that I thought he did well. I thought our offense as a whole on third down was very good early, which allowed us to stay on the field because I don't think we were great on first and second down, but plenty to clean up. Yeah, I thought operation was good. That's when you go into these games, I know it's kind of boring, but that's what you're looking for from the quarterbacks to orchestrate, get guys in and out of the huddle, make the right calls, send the motions, all those type of things. So I thought he did a good job with that. He's got plenty that he's going to clean up.
And really, Lance, the two things that stand out are the two turnovers, and again, trying to make a play, just and the handoff, you gotta. That's on both of them, the quarterback and that. But I don't understand the mindset that well, this guy was great and that guy was. If both of them are good, that's even better.
Well, I tell you what, Kevin Stefanski has. He's really even keel. I'm a big fan of how he handles himself as a head coach. I've learned a lot as a former head coach and how to handle certain situations. So I'm down there watching him, but I'm also reading Kevin Stefanski's body language, and it's fantastic. And I will say this, he deserves a lot more credit than sometimes he's given, right, in terms of getting these quarterbacks ready to play. Even if you look at Huntley is able to operate this offense because of what they do for him. Obviously, they made him comfortable with plays, but to get all these quarterbacks playing really, really well and the operation and the motion, two things I think have helped. One is there's great competition in that room right now. Whether people know it or not, these are pro quarterbacks, and got four or five guys who are really trying really hard. Second thing, I think live action has really helped them. So two things they've been able to do. They're a little bit more physical, obviously, and they're using a lot more motion and movement, which is creating a really awesome window for those quarterbacks. So the motion, the live action, and just the idea of these quarterbacks, they're not being set up for failure. In fact, it's the exact opposite. They're being set up for success. And watching every day, I truly believe that. The success these two guys have had and the failures have been because of Kevin Stefanski and his staff. And Dillon Gabriel wasn't. He's done everything well, but he wasn't real accurate for 4 or 5 days. And that's the bottom line. So he was accurate. So everything else, his footwork, his fundamentals, they've all been good. He was pretty consistent with that accuracy in this game as well. He's just got to protect the football. So, yes, still plenty to clean up.
All right. Browns made it official. They signed Isaiah Bond to a 3-year contract. They guarantee it. It kind of would be between last pick in the second round, first pick in the third round. What are they getting on the field with Bond, I guess, is where I'm going with that.
Well, he's a raw guy, right? So he's a flat-out jet guy, right? So he's about 5'11", 180. He's played inside and outside. I think for me, I'm going to call him a slot right now. I think he's an easy yards guy. He's a guy who ran a ton of bubble screens, ton of quick screens, reverses, things like that. But I think you can immediately use him for his speed to take the top off, and then I think you can use him in those short range game. Now, his run after catch is elite. He's an elite athlete. Now, he's not great in contested catches at 5'11", 180. He doesn't have a huge catch radius, but I think he's a guy you can use in speed. Kevin likes to run those deep play action overshots where one guy's clearing, one guy's coming underneath, but they're both downfield. This is a guy with elite speed. He's going to have to learn to get off press coverage because he's only 5'11", and he's always used his speed. That's why I think he's more inside, because you can use a lot of motion. You can get him off press coverage in the slot easier than you can outside. So I see him as a slot receiver, an easy yards guy. I don't see him. In fact, I wouldn't even. He's a touch guy in the things that you and I have talked about for years. Right now, he's a touch guy, so he's going to be a guy who gets some packages and find ways to get the ball in his hands in space and try to run after catch, because that's what he's really good at.
So take a look at this. Daniel Fusi, the Akron Beacon Journal beat reporter for the Browns, tweets this out, and it's kind of interesting. So these are the rookies that they have added, and you and I talked all off season about playmakers. So Judkins, they're still at an impasse relative to the contract being the Browns and Judkins. He's the only rookie who's unsigned. Sampson, Bond, Fannin, in addition to the two quarterbacks. So you kind of, they needed to get younger, they needed to get faster, they needed to get playmakers. They got a lot of possibilities with that rookie class.
Well, I'll tell you what, I get to talk to Daniel every day. What a great kid. Really works hard at his craft and kind of breaks stuff down. I will say this. I think the most impactful guy on the field will be Quinshon Judkins if he comes back and he's able to get on the field, and we're talking football only, right? Because if he can do that, he fits the purpose of getting them the second six. But I think the most impactful guy who is has no issues whatsoever and is just kind of a consistent old soul is Harold Fannin. And Harold Fannin has proven to me against a really good Eagles defense, first of all, how smart he is. He plays everywhere on that field. 1, 2, and 3 strong, tight end, inline, blocking at the fullback, motions from multiple sets, does orbit mode. You name it, he's doing it. And he's a mismatch issue. And if he can block, like you and I have talked about, and that defense has to bring in more linebackers, he's an absolute nightmare for the defense. So I think Harold Fannin, just because of his consistency, he's been here all camp, he'll be the guy who's most impactful early because he'll be on the field. He's a true starter. He's going to be playing between 40 and 60 snaps without question.
Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, and I'm going to step aside, take one more time out. We'll look ahead to preseason game number 3 against the Rams. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us.
You got so much to do, it's got you feeling blue. Put a little play in your day, 'cause it's fun all over the state. So come on, great games wait for you and me, the Ohio Lottery. Put a little play in your day, put a little play in your day.
We continue talking Browns with Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. Former NFL quarterback Danny Kanell, his thoughts on the Browns' 2025 season. This from CBS Sports HQ.
I think they could be a 9 or a 10 win team. I mean, and I do like the makeup of this team. I think the style of play of what they want to do offensively suits Joe Flacco well. I think it's one of the reasons that Shador excelled in the preseason, because it's more of a play action, pocket passer type of system, which I think fits Flacco to a T. I know they've got to figure out Quinshon Judkins and some of the issues that are going on with him, but I really like Dylan Sampson, their pick that they took a little bit later to possibly step in and fill a void in the backfield for them. So, and then we got to think about what they did this offseason too with Myles Garrett, paying him. Their defense, I think, is going to be one of the things for them to hang their hat on. Mason Graham, one of the rookie first-round picks that they brought in there, is a player that potentially could wreak some havoc. So I think it is more of a traditional offensive style where you're taking some play-action shots down the field, trying to run the football, and playing really good, aggressive defense.
And Lance, we've talked about it. That's kind of the recipe for success. For this defense to be as good as you and I think it can be, I'm assuming the line's going to be really good. What needs to happen other than the line for this to be a top 5, defensive unit?
Well, obviously they got to create more turnovers, right? So you have to create more turnovers as defense. That's the number one thing. However, if you ask me, the key, the initial key for both sides of the ball, and obviously we're talking defense now, they got to win first down. And the reason why if they win first down, here's what happens. Now you're 8 to 10 deep on that defensive line, and you're 8 to 10 deep with guys who can really rush the passer with the number 1 edge rusher in the NFL, and it's not close. He's that good. So if you win on first down and now you get in passing situations, you're in good shape. Now, another thing that can happen is because they can win with 4 on their pass rush, they can get 7, and they can sometimes drop 7. So if they struggle outside of Denzel Ward, if Newsome struggles a little bit, they can give him some help over the top because they can create pressure with just 4. Also think Schlesinger needs to be lights out even as a rookie. I think he needs to be really good. I have no questions, and I haven't. Obviously, I'm biased, but Mason Graham is going to be an absolute load in there with Malik Collins as a starting 2 interior guys. But I think for really, obviously, they got to create turnovers, But if they win on first down and they get the second and third passing situations, this plays right into this hand. And that's when you get the turnovers. That's when you create make them punt. And, that's when you sneak games out. The idea of running the ball, playing great defense, taking some play action shots because you're physical. That's how you win those so-called ugly games. People are like, I don't think, never, when you win, it's never ugly. I don't care if it's 2-0 or not. You live to fight another day. So I think they got a chance because that defense, and I think they will because this is the best they've been as a defensive line in the 4 years that I've been covering them.
So how good was Flacco? We didn't get to see him. How good was he at the joint practices, and have you kind of seen him ramp it up? Named the starter today is one of the reasons I asked.
Well, yeah, so I was there obviously with the whole, everybody was there, the media was there, and they had on Thursday they didn't do as many one-on-one, they didn't do any one-on-ones or anything. They did 3 team sessions, 3 extended team sessions down by the red zone. And first of all, you get such a great look and feel that you're sitting on these stands. And the thing I liked about it is that it was 100 degrees. It was miserable out there. And I absolutely loved it, right? It reminded me of coaching. It's hot. It's miserable. And the Browns are up for the challenge. And the last 2 sessions, Flacco missed 1 ball. And the 1 ball he missed was an incredible throw to Jerry Jeudy, who was just out of bounds. So he was on money. He was on the money with every throw. And you could see it in his balance. You can see it when there's pressure at his feet. And that defensive line, obviously, we know from the Eagles, is no joke. But that ability to run the ball and then his play action and ability to hit those chunk plays, those deep outs, those dig routes, those verticals, very, very impressive. It was I was shocked they waited this long. He separated himself dramatically from the other guys just because of his experience and his ability to run this style of offense.
What are you looking for in the third preseason game? Who are you paying attention to? What do you want to see?
Well, hopefully they're going to play some starters, and hopefully they play a little bit of extended time. You'd like to see 2 things on defense. I want to see. I think it's a great great third game scrimmage. Going back to my high school days, but that they're going to see a ton of motion from McVay, which I think is really, really important because this secondary has done and the linebackers have done a great job of communication with motion, and that's something they've struggled with in the past. And the Rams might be as good as anybody in football of motioning for a purpose, trying to create those windows. A lot of what I'm seeing from the Browns this year with Tommy Rees, which has been awesome. So that's what I want to see on defense, the continuous communication and the relentless flow to the football. And then I want to see the even if they go starters, the commitment to the run game. One of my favorite things about this game against Philadelphia, after those third down conversions, after Gabriel made some good throws, they went right back to 1-back power or wide zone or 2-back power, which I think is really important to create that identity. It doesn't mean you're always going to get a home run, but those body shots add up on a defense, and those body shots add up to play action passes that are complete later in games. So just committed to what they're doing on both sides of the ball, the sense of urgency they played with. I'm always a guy. I never lose a game before you play it. But this football team is practicing and playing with a purpose right now, and it's kind of fun to watch every day at practice.
All right, I got one more for you before I let you go. Who do you think is competing for a roster spot potentially in this third game? Because there's going to be some tough decisions, when you get to 50, 51, 52, 53.
Well, guys like, if you look inside, guys like, Ralph Holly and Juwan Briggs, how many defensive linemen can they keep? Troyan Shayanko, who I thought when they signed would be an automatic, but with Alex Wright and McGuire playing the way they are, is that a guy who, I think he's fighting for a spot. You got a guy like Nathaniel Watson who played great at linebacker, but with the emergence of Schlesinger, how many linebackers are they going to keep? So that would be, those backup guys, safety-wise. A guy like Christopher Edmonds, how high are they on him? Because he's been outstanding all camp. And does he tie into? I know they really like Jenkins, who they picked up, and they really like Kazee, who they picked up, who I like as well. But Edmonds is a long guy who can create some turnovers. So just those guys. And then like Zach Zinter, I think he's fighting. He's got to continue to improve after coming off that leg injury. And who's going to be the swing tackle? I know, obviously, I thought Lucas struggled a little bit on Saturday. So just seeing some of those backups. But, yeah, there's going to be some guys on the defensive line, especially on that defense, that are really good players that might not make this roster.
Lance Reisland, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Lance.
As always, thanks for having me.
Lance Reisland, make sure you check him out. Always good stuff. Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. We continue talking Browns. Pete Smith from the Orange and Brown Report straight ahead. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Browns with a day off, getting ready to start preparing for the final preseason game against the Rams Saturday at 1 o'clock, that one at home. Former NFL quarterback David Carr, what he saw from Dillon Gabriel in the preseason game against the Eagles this weekend.
I thought he looked great. I mean, this pocket presence on third down, it's a big third down play right there. He had 2 of those on that drive. He throws to the sideline on third down. Perfect. I mean, the guy executed the offense almost flawlessly, you'd say. I mean, we had the interception that we'll talk about in a little bit, and the handoff with the back. That's just a matter of getting reps with those guys and being in the right spot and getting in their gut. Like, simple stuff. But the management of the offense and how he ripped through progressions, I thought was beautiful. I thought instantly, like, when he stepped on the field, he had command. And so that's what we've kind of heard from those guys, talking to the Cleveland Brown guys, go out there and practice. You know he is that guy. He's almost a coach on the field. So for a young guy to go out there and play the way he did, obviously the numbers are what they are, and you have to clean up the interception, obviously figure out how to do that. But getting the ball on third down to Thrash, and he made some great plays. I thought Dillon played great.
Well, now let's welcome in Pete Smith from the Orange and Brown Report. Pete, he looked like a guy that had been there before, and I guess he's played so much college football, that's what you expect. Now, the defense is not schemed up. They're not game planning against him. But he was pretty good in the pocket. There were a couple of times where, you know, he didn't get swallowed up and he found his passing lane.
Yeah, I mean, all I really wanted to see from Dillon Gabriel is why the Browns thought he was worth a third-round pick, and we got that. He was on time. He was accurate. He was precise. He had the answers. That was the biggest thing watching Dillon Gabriel in college is he always seemed to have the answers to regardless of the situation. That carried over well. 5-on-5 on third down was very impressive, and he did all the things you would expect a guy who's played 60 football games or whatever it is to do. And you know, given what we saw from Shedeur Sanders, I thought he handled himself well, and you know, that's sort of the right place for him to be.
Yeah, and again, it can be that both guys played well. It isn't like, well, Gabriel played better than Sanders or Sanders played better than Gabriel. Both of these guys took steps from when they came in, I thought.
Well, I think it says 2 things. One, yes, they are both progressing, which is what we want. And 2, if you are, and I don't care how you stack them, you could say Shedeur is better than Gabriel, you could say Gabriel's better than Shedeur. I don't really care. But, you know, there were people talking about, well, Shedeur Sanders needs to be competing and getting reps with the ones. I think what you saw from Dillon Gabriel sort of indicates that both guys are firmly with the 2s. Neither one is ready to really contend for the starting job. And that it's time to sort of rally around Joe Flacco, get ready for the Bengals, and let those guys continue to grow at their own pace rather than trying to sort of force growth. Let them just do it. That's been my whole thing the entire way, is just let these 2 kids do it, and the results are pretty good so far.
I know you wrote an article, you know, the 3 thoughts coming out of it, that second preseason game for the Orange and Brown Report. One of them was quarterback. Take us through kind of, if we didn't touch on anything that you had in that article with the quarterback, and then the other 2 thoughts coming out of the preseason game against the Eagles.
The only other thing about quarterback is, and I'm hoping we'll see, because the Rams don't play their starters in preseason, that the Browns won't, and they'll give each guy, assuming they're both healthy, a half to finish out the preseason, and we'll go from there. Defensive line wise, you know, we're talking so much about Browns quarterbacks. One of the things through 2 games, preseason games, granted, is I'm glad that I'm sure the Browns quarterbacks are also glad that they are not facing the Browns defensive line, because it is brutal going against them, whether it was Andy Dalton, DTR, or whoever else was back there. It is just constantly under siege, pressure, sacks. They aren't doing anything schemed up or all that impressive. They're just sending guys at the quarterback, and it was consistent pressure, and that is going to force difficult decisions down the road beyond and that's before we've seen Myles Garrett on the field, before we've seen Mike Hall, who's yet to be activated, or Malik Collins on the field. The Browns' defensive line looks really, really impressive. It looks like what Jim Schwartz wants to be. And those last couple roster spots are going to be worth watching. And then wide receiver wise, and I totally understand why critics are sort of like the Browns don't have much wide receiver talent, because after Jerry Jeudy, you sit there and you go, what else is proven? And from that standpoint, it's entirely fair to say the Browns don't have anything else proven. I would just say that I sort of understand why the Browns feel not good, because I think the Browns need to be still drafting wide receiver help next year, potentially early. But I think I can understand their standpoint of why they feel pretty good about the situation they have right now. Cedric Tillman flashed really well last year, 3 games, granted, and he needs to stay healthy and continue. But if you told me that Cedric Tillman plays 17 games this year, I don't think anyone would be surprised if he had a really good season. And then the guy who's popping through the preseason and has been a guy that's getting a lot of buzz in camp in general is Jamari Thrash. And he looks confident. He looks smooth. He looks able to create separation effectively. And that becomes a huge development for the Browns, because if he can really lock down maybe that 3rd or 4th wide receiver spot, then it puts them in a situation where they aren't having to rely on Deontay Johnson. And Deontay Johnson could be a nice player for the Browns. He could be gone tomorrow. You don't know which. But you don't want to be in a situation where you're forced to rely on him, given his recent history and how things have gone for him. So Jamari Thrash, also being a younger player, being one that they've drafted is also good news. But just not being forced to a situation where you are counting on Deontay Johnson to be a major part of your offense is a good thing.
All right, so word came out today that the Browns, in fact, did sign Isaiah Bond, wide receiver from Texas, and it was a 3-year contract, guaranteed. So he came out and thanked the Browns. This is from his agent, Damian Butler, tweeting that out. Remember, he was the guy that had legal issues, sexual assault charges against him at Texas, wasn't drafted, no bill delivered by Texas authorities, the prosecutors, saying they don't think they have enough to prosecute and convict him. So the other thing, they guarantee a $3 million contract. Mike Garafolo puts that in context. At just over $3 million guaranteed, Bond gets the guarantee that fits between the final pick of the 2nd round, which is $4.2 million, first pick of the 3rd round, $1.6 million. Bond is a guy that, Pete, he's kind of intriguing. I mean, the speed was there. I think it's 4.39, something like that at the combine. Said he could potentially run a 4.2. Hasn't been a lot of production, but what I had forgotten was at Alabama, Tommy Rees was his OC a few years ago.
Yeah, I think in the messaging, I think the Browns would be better off leaning into the Tommy Rees element of this whole thing and saying, look, Tommy Rees is sort of vouching for this guy, in addition to the fact that they've done the homework on the accusations and the fact that the grand jury didn't recommend any charges. But beyond that, look, Isaiah Bond is talented. He has speed. He's got reasonably okay hands for a guy who can take the top off a defense. This is something the Browns always want. They've wanted this. Kevin Stefanski has consistently had a guy that does these elements since he's been here. Rashad Perriman, then it was Kadero Hodge. Then they had, Anthony Schwartz, and so on and so forth. And, watching Isaiah Bond on tape, I was never overly impressed in terms of, polish or anything like that. I think he's a slightly better version of Anthony Schwartz. But, for the price of not having to use a draft pick, I totally understand the idea of doing this. And then the contract just becomes sort of a free market element. I can't say I love the idea of sort of guaranteeing him a roster spot, which this contract would seemingly do, given the fact I don't know what he can prove in 3 weeks and what he can do, and what message that sends to somebody who's potentially, the rest of the team with guys who have been here for months. But that is the choice they are making. I don't have hugely high hopes for Isaiah Bond, simply because in terms of evaluating wide receivers, the number one trait that seems to carry over from college to the NFL is production. And if you look at his time, whether it was Alabama or Texas, he's never been overly productive. Some of that was blamed on Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is raw quarterback, or not Jalen Hurts, Jalen Milroe. You can blame that and fine. you go to Texas. It was supposed to be better with Quinn Ewers and Steve Sarkisian, and I still don't think Quinn Ewers was all that good for him. But at some point, you are running into a concerning territory when you are saying that it's the quarterback's fault that you're not producing. Because when Isaiah Bond initially transferred, there were people who were projecting him to be the number one wide receiver of the entire draft for what this was going to do for him. It didn't translate. Not only did that not happen, Matthew Golden became the best receiver on Texas, and he became the guy who sort of took all the headlines. They had a tight end that outproduced Isaiah Bond. So I get it. I understand why they're doing this. I just don't, I'm not looking at this the way some are and thinking this is a huge answer to their wide receiver position. It's a shot. I get it. I just don't know how far it's going to go.
Yeah, that's kind of the speed is there. So let's see if he can be. There are a lot of fast guys that can't play football. Let's see if he can play football. So we know Judy, Tillman, Thrash, and Bond. You think those are the four that are locked? And who do you think still has a chance to earn a spot as a wide receiver on this roster? And I'm leaving off Deontay Johnson in those thoughts.
Which I think you're right to do. I don't think he's guaranteed anything at this point. And frankly, if you're going to make an argument that the Browns should cut anybody for Bond, I find it sort of compelling to say that Deontay Johnson would be the odd man out in that scenario. But beyond Johnson, I think Gage Larvidan is certainly in the conversation. I think he's acquitted himself well and has the ability to contribute in the return game, which obviously helps him. Caden Davis, this guy who's just been an absolute grinder, came out in 2022, and he's been on 4 different teams and practice squads, and he played the USFL for a year, and it just seems to be clicking for him. He's a good athlete, and it's just working. And then, the DeAndre Carter, who's more of a specific kick returner, I think he potentially has the hardest path to make it at this point, even though the Browns guaranteed him some money. I think the Browns would like to keep Larvidan because he's younger. And then, it really comes down to who do they like better between Davis or Johnson, or the other question then is, do they feel confident they get one of these guys to the practice squad, which always shapes your decisions? Because even if let's say you love what Caden Davis has done, if you feel confident that he's going to be able to get to your practice squad, it sort of makes it easier to sort of make that move.
Pete Smith and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, we'll look forward this week, starting quarterback, final preseason game. Sports4CLE, talking Browns with Pete Smith from the Orange and Brown Report. Stay with us.
You got so much to do, it's got you feeling blue. Put a little play in your day, 'cause it's fun all over the state. So come on, great games wait for you and me, the Ohio Lottery. Put a little play in your day, put a little play in your day.
We continue talking Browns with Pete Smith from the Orange and Brown Report. So yesterday, Kevin Stefanski was asked, who will be the starting quarterback week 1 against Cincinnati Bengals?
I want to get through the next couple days, but certainly that's something that we're going to do here sooner than later.
So when you say sooner than later, do you think we should expect something by the end of this week? Do you think it will be after?
I need to get the football team in here, talk to the players, those type of things. So we're working towards obviously week 1. That's part of what this week is about, getting our football team ready. So we'll make all those type of determinations in the next couple of days.
And then similarly, just roping in quarterbacks. Do you have any health update on Kenny and Shador? Do you expect them to increase their level of participation in practice this week?
I hope so. We really have to take those day by day. So I don't know where that ends up towards the end of the week, but I'm hopeful.
Do you think Flacco and the starters get any playing time against the Rams?
Well, listen, I hope not. I mean, that's my stand. I just don't want to see it. I don't need to see a 40-year-old Flacco go out there and get preseason reps. He's been doing this longer than I've been doing this. So we'll see. Because the Rams don't play their starters, so I don't know what you're going to get out of that, other than going through the sort of process of getting ready for a game and all that stuff. But here's the thing: they're at home. This, to me, if you're going to do this, it makes honestly more sense to do it on the road, because that's a little bit more of a process as opposed to sort of you just get to show up to the Brown Stadium and go through your normal process. That's pretty easy. So I really hope they don't play them, but if they do, I hope it's very short and it's just get them in and out, because look, they cannot, look, we're still waiting for an update on Cornelius Lucas's ankle, for example. They cannot afford to lose an offensive lineman, for example. They cannot afford to lose Jerry Jeudy, for example. So I'm hoping they just say, we're going to keep the process going, because if I'm making the argument that preseason is not all that helpful, I would look at how the Browns have come out in these preseason games. There was no preseason that got the 2s and 3s ready to go, and yet they've come out really well. I think that's an indication of what they're doing in training camp is getting these guys ready to go and the joint practices. So all I can say is I hope they don't do it that way, but we'll see.
What are you paying close attention to in the third preseason game?
Yeah, so there's a couple things I'm curious to see is how they handle the secondary. Slot corner is getting a whole lot of attention because Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome are obviously locked up on the outside. And then it's a question of who's going to be that third guy. And you've seen some questionable play from Cameron Mitchell. Is that going to be Miles Harden? And I think some of that is just who's going to be lined up there in the third preseason game and what does that look like? But they could use safeties for that. It could be somebody like Donovan McMillan or something. And if it's not, are we going to see them try to find an answer outside the roster? That seems very sketchy because seemingly 32 teams all need corners right now, and that's a really tough move to make. Beyond that, the depth on the offensive line, it's been sort of a roller coaster. There have been a number of players who've played well in one of the preseason games. I'd like to see somebody be a little bit more consistent outside of Luke Whippler, who has been fantastic in both those games. But when you're talking about the second team offensive line, guys who may need to come in because of injury or something, you're just hoping for consistency. I think the overall trend for that unit is in a positive direction, but I want to see, what are we going to get? Should they need somebody to step in? Are they going to be able to get consistency from one of those players?
Again, I know it's preseason. Have you been as impressed with the defensive line as I have? I mean, they've lived in the backfield against two teams now, and it doesn't matter if it's the fourth, fifth, or sixth guy in the rotation. All of them seem to get back there and put pressure.
Yeah, to me, it's the most fun thing to watch so far through the preseason. Is you just constantly get to see these guys wreak havoc. Look, Isaiah McGuire had basically 2 sacks beyond the weird pop-up thing that ended up being caught by somebody else and tackled in the backfield in 3 pass rush snaps. So I'm hoping that's indicative of him getting ready to take the next step. Alex Wright looks good. I'd like to see more from Joe Tryon. I haven't really seen much from him so far. But when you get to Cam Thomas and Aiden Huntington and these other players, I think Juwan Briggs looks fantastic for the role they need him to play. So yeah, I'm excited for this group. It's been awesome. Even guys who are not going to make this roster. Titus Leo has been here 15 minutes and he was in the backfield 3 times. So everybody they put back there, it seems to be working.
All right, who is the third preseason game important for? So those would be guys that you think are kind of on the bubble of getting on that 53-man roster.
Yeah, I think closing arguments for the safeties are going to be really interesting beyond Grant Delpit and Ronnie Hickman, who I think are going to be solidified as starters. I love what I see from Donovan McMillan, the undrafted rookie out of Pitt. I'm curious to see if Chris Edmonds can sort of lock up a spot or if they're going to feel more comfortable going with a guy like DeMonte Casey or Rayshon Jenkins, who I don't even think played in the second one after he got ejected in the first one. So that's one of those groups where I think it's going to be sort of interesting. And then linebacker, that's another position. The defensive line has been really good, and it's really allowed the linebackers to play well. And Buki Watson, who I thought was absolutely terrible last year, he just looked completely fish out of water last year, has been fantastic in the 2 preseason games and really came on this last one. And with Devin Bush's situation still up in the air, he seemed to be making a compelling argument that he can be that Sam backer. And it may be a scenario where because if Bush gets suspended, that Buki Watson just never gives the job back.
Yeah, he's played well on special teams, which is always something that they pay attention to. You've seen him kind of flash on special teams as well. All right, before I let you go, Jordan Schultz, national NFL reporter for Fox Sports, tweets this out. Panthers, Browns, and Colts among the teams that have shown interest in trading for Bengals All-Pro Trey Hendrickson. Reports are there is no movement in those negotiations between the Bengals and the player Hendrickson. Division, in-state, highly unlikely. Any deal will be tough regardless. Cincinnati is believed to want an impact player plus a draft pick in return. It'll be interesting. They said they want a first pick and a young defensive player. They don't have any leverage with getting a first pick for a guy they don't want to pay.
Right. The Browns price check everything, so that's not surprising if they called, but the Bengals have put themselves in just a terrible situation, handling this really poorly. Trey Hendrickson is a guy that should be an easy decision to pay. They are dragging their feet on it, and now they're getting into this weird sort of, I guess, show of good faith that they're willing to listen to trade offers, but then put out the fact that they want unrealistic offers that they're never going to get. Or if they do, then they have to say yes, and so be it. But I don't think anything's going to happen with this, and all it's doing is making it so the Browns have to feel increasingly confident about what could happen the first week of the season. If they are this discombobulated on the defensive side of the ball, that opens up an opportunity for the Browns to hopefully come out and play well enough on that side of the ball that their defense can play well enough that they can come out and get a win. Because that would obviously, with everything that's going on this season and the amount of expectations that people have that are sort of thinking this is going to be brutal between the schedule, the state of the roster, and everything changes if they get a win that first season, and you'll hear everybody talking about Super Bowl and everything else if they can just come out and get that first win.
Yeah, I'm with you. The other thing is Bengals play tonight, Monday Night Football. I would encourage everyone to watch. I saw them play the Eagles last week, and their run defense was terrible. The Eagles moved up and down the field against them. So, again, preseason, fingers crossed that continues. Pete, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much.
Thanks for having me.
Pete Smith, make sure to check him out. Great Browns coverage, Orange and Brown Report. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4 on Sports for CLE.